everyone! So I have been wanting to do an Iceberg video for a really long time, but I didn't want to do like a generalized dolls Iceberg because that would be kind of unoriginal and lame. So I have made my own mini Iceberg specifically focused on Mattel dolls. So that way it's more of a focused subject matter, I'm being a bit more original, and also if this video does well, I can make an MGA Iceberg video. Or like other doll brands, other doll companies. There aren't really that many others unless I want to do like the Integrity Toys Iceberg and get 10 total views. So we all know how an iceberg video works. You get the more commonly known stuff at the top and then the obscure shit at the bottom. My iceberg only has 4 levels because I didn't want this video to be 10 hours long. If there's anything I've missed, please let me know in the comments or like DM me anywhere. My Instagram and Twitter will be in the description. I'm really excited to make this video. I'm so excited to just talk about things I like. For like an hour probably. I hope you're excited to watch that. I hope you'll notice I did my hair for the occasion. If it looks good, leave a comment. If it doesn't, keep that to yourself. I showed my mum and she was like, you look like you walked out of the 1970s. I said, that's what I wanted. As well as doing my hair, I've also got an entirely pink ensemble on. And that includes a pair of skinny jeans from the 1980s that hurt to wear. I'm in so much pain right now having my legs crossed. Someone save me. I don't even know if you could see them. What's the point of wearing pants? Yeah. I have my notes ready here so I'm not just like talking aimlessly. I have dot points. So hopefully it doesn't sound too scripted but it also doesn't sound too freeform. Okay, so first tier. Our first entry is obviously Barbie. Barbie is widely considered to be the first fashion doll. She debuted in 1959. I really don't know what else I can say about her. I mean, she's the doll. Everyone's had a Barbie in their lives. Unless you're like from the middle of the ocean. Unless you grew up in Atlantis, you've probably had a Barbie before in your life, and we all love her, despite her recent unfortunate looks. American Girl. American Girl was founded by a school teacher named Pleasant Rowland who aimed to make historically accurate dolls of different time periods. The company was bought out by Mattel in 1998. The main focus is child-proportioned, historically accurate dolls that represent a certain time period and are ludicrously expensive, but very, very detailed and cool. Since Mattel bought the company, there has been more of a focus on modern dolls, including a kind of Build-A-Bear type of deal where you can completely customize your own doll to look like you, or anyone for that matter. I don't love American Girl dolls that much because I'm not super into child proportion dolls other than like Chrissy over here. But if I were to buy a American Girl doll, it would be either Melody or Julie. Which is surprising to no one who knows me because everyone knows 60s and 70s aesthetics are my shit. I mean, look at my hair, dude. American Girl is also unique in the fact that they have a dedicated doll hospital that you can send your dolls in for repair. By the way, dream job. I wish I could work at the American Girl doll hospital. My main career trajectory goal is to be a doll designer or just a designer for kids' toys in general. But if I can't make it, best believe you'll find me in that doll hospital.
I think I know more about American Girl than you do.
You never listen to any American Girl style.
Monster High. Monster High was first released in 2010, originally created by Garrett Sander, who was working as a packaging designer at Mattel for lines like Pixel Chicks and My Scene, before being selected to pitch a brand new product to Mattel. Monster High has been rebooted twice, once in 2016 and once again in 2022, both without the inclusion of the original designer Garrett Sander. The 2022 reboot, colloquially titled G3, has been much more successful and well-loved than G2, which is the 2016 reboot, although it's not without controversy. While the 2016 reboot was in general controversial for being sanitized, dumbed down, and lower quality than G1, G3 is an odd case in that people don't like it because it's too woke. People don't like that these dolls include different body types, different sexual identities, different gender identities. It's completely absurd. If you hate G3 and you're a fan of the original G1, I want you to know that there's no point in you being a Monster High fan and we don't want you. And you've clearly not understood the original message of Monster High, which is, you know, be yourself, be unique, be a monster. A very inclusion-heavy motto for a doll line, whose dolls were, like, this thin. And this is not me dogging on G1, I love G1. You can't see it, but just above my head is my Monster High collection, and while my G3 dolls are in the front because they're more recent and I love them, I did just spend $120 on a G1 doll because I love G1. It is also worth saying that G1 does still live on despite the G3 reboot because collector edition dolls are being released at a very steady rate. It seems like every 2 weeks there's a new G1 collector release out. I can't keep up. I have only ever bought 2 Skellactor Monster High releases, and that was the Alien doll as a gift from my best friend Aria. Hey! I know you're watching. I love you! And the second was the one I just mentioned spending $120 on. That is the Scare Us Screams fan club exclusive doll, who I love with all my heart. My last dot point that I have on this section is obviously based around the children of legendary monsters who serve cunt. Thanks for that, me. Ever After High. Ever After High was a sister brand to Monster High, released in 2013. Instead of being based around the children of legendary monsters, it's based around the children of fairy tale characters. I was never into Ever After High. There's a photo of me from 2016 opening up a birthday present, and it's a Ever After High pajama set. I don't remember ever owning it or ever liking Ever After High. And that's not to say that you're wrong if you do like them, because they are cute, and I do understand that the story is very gripping and very serious. That's my other note on this. Much more dramatic and serialized story in comparison to Monster High. But it was just never my thing growing up, and, you know, maybe I should watch some of the movies or the show now. My Scene. My Scene was a Barbie spin-off created to compete with Bratz. It was released in 2002. One of my notes on this states, and I quote, "Cool as fuck and mugged out," which I can't help but agree with. In 2005, the brand was soft rebooted with the My Bling Bling line, which introduced a new ice screening, which were fucking gorgeous. The line was based around Barbie as a teenager hanging out with her other cool teenage friends, but in the Fab Faces line, they replaced Barbie with a girl named Kennedy who looks exactly like her, and completely replaced her in every upcoming My Scene line, stealing her dog, friends, and boyfriend in the process. There was also a slightly controversial, weird line called Growing Up Glam, which was based on the Mattel doll from the 60s, I believe, 60s or 70s, Growing Up Skipper, where the dolls had like a key on the back, and if you turned it, they would get taller and grow boobs. More on that later. Designers who worked on My Scene, such as Lily Martinez and Garrett Sander, also worked on Monster High. Garrett Sander was a packaging designer, and Lily Martinez, I believe, was the lead designer for My Scene. And I would just like to applaud her because I have not seen a single My Scene doll that looks bad. I love My Scene. Lily Martinez, if I ever meet you in real life, I'm gonna kiss you on the mouth. Mattel versus MGA. Mattel and MGA have had a very public, very heated rivalry since 2001 when Bratz released. Before Bratz released, Mattel had very little competition in terms of fashion dolls. Any dolls that even came close to overtaking Barbie just kind of died off. Such as Cindy, my beloved, who I have one of over here. You can't see her. Bratz were not an instant hit, but they did slowly end up taking over Barbie's sales, completely destroying her in the process. There was a lawsuit about this, which I'll get more into later on, but around 2010 when Monster High came out, Mattel kind of reclaimed their place in the fashion doll market and started making those sales back. Something I've noticed is that Mattel and MGA will often try to recreate the success of the other competitor, fail, and then just find success by doing their own original thing. Like, obviously Bratz come out, My Scene comes out, and as a kind of copycat Bratz, even though I think personally My Scene stands on their own 2 feet, their own 2 weird foot sock feet, My Scene was successful as a doll line and ran for many years, didn't do much to take back the control MGA had claimed over the fashion doll market. Obviously then Mattel comes out with Monster High, their own original thing, and succeeds in kind of killing off Bratz. Then MGA attempts to compete with Monster High by releasing Bratzillas, which were more edgy, horror-themed versions of the Bratz, which I love! Unfortunately, Bratzillas failed, and then after that the fashion doll market kind of collapsed after Monster High G2 flopped horrendously, and MGA were actually the ones to rebuild that market through LOL OMG and Rainbow High. Currently the two companies have sort of reanimated old brands to compete with each other again, with Monster High G3 coming out and Bratz releasing new playline dolls. Mattel have also been coming out with My Scene collector dolls, which in my opinion are not as good as the originals. They've just got kind of odd, misshapen faces. And rumour has it that MGA are working on a Bratzilla's comeback. Okay, level 2. The Legend of Shadow High. This was a crossover movie planned for Monster High and Ever After High. They were really leading up to this with Ever After High characters making appearances in Monster High movies, and a lot of concept art and storyboards were made, but the movie never ended up happening and became a novel instead, which is a bummer. I would have really liked to see it. Diva Starz. My beloved. I don't know if you can see. This is my Tia doll. She's a bit dusty. She's beautiful. I have mini Diva Starz as well and a fashion Diva Starz, but they're more at the back of my shelf. That's not because I hate them. To clarify, I love them. So Diva Starz were released in 2002 and had robotic functions similar to a Furby. You know, they could talk, they could interact with accessories and clothing pieces you could put on them. They could interact with each other, they could ask you questions. It was really just a Furby, but like, cooler. Later on they released mini Diva Starz, which I mentioned earlier, and fashion Diva Starz, which were Diva Starz dolls that had more Barbie-like bodies and fabric clothes, but had less robotic capabilities and could only say pre-recorded phrases when you pressed a button on their head. I'd also like to take a moment to mention the Diva Starz CD-ROM game, which I have. Here it is. I have no idea what this game entails because I've never played it, because my computer does not have a disk drive, because no computer does anymore. But on the back, look, you can see the dolls. I'd say that my favourite doll of the Diva Starz line is this one here. Let's see. I think that's Summer. She's the ginger one. I don't know, I just think ginger dolls are cute. I'm the same way with My Scene. Kenzie is like one of my favourite characters. Ever After High versus Descendants. Why did I say that like a Yank? Ever After High. Ever After High versus Descendants. Ever After High and Descendants were two doll lines with very similar concepts, Ever After High obviously being the Mattel property and Descendants being the Disney property, both revolving around characters who were descendants, you know, children, of fairy tale characters, you know? Princesses, villains, whatever. Some people speculate that the release of Descendants led to the cancellation of Ever After High, but this is just speculation. Around this time, Mattel did lose the license to manufacture Disney dolls, something they had had the rights to do since the 90s, and losing this Disney license was a huge hit to Mattel's revenue, which affected the budgets of their other toy brands, and was not helped when around this time Barbie was also tanking in sales. Some people speculate that the reason they lost the Disney license is because they were mad at Mattel for making Ever After High, but like I said, this is just speculation. We don't know the leaders of these companies and their priorities and whether or not they did certain things. Descendants is still running, still making movies, still making dolls, but Ever After High sadly isn't. YouTuber Darling Dolls has a really good video on this if you want to watch something that goes into further detail, and also he's just a really great YouTuber in general and one of my main inspirations for this channel, along with Mary Loves Mew, Lulaloopsy, and Dream Jelly also. I feel like there's another one I'm missing. It'll come back to me in like 10 minutes and I'll be pissed. Wicked Dolls! So obviously to coincide with the release of the two Wicked movies that came out recently, Mattel released Wicked Dolls. Famously, there was a packaging error on the box initially, which led to a... Can I say that? Can I say porn site on YouTube? Can I say URL led to a porn site on YouTube? Anyway, the packaging had a URL on the box that was meant to lead to a Wicked website. Instead, it led to a porn site. This was very heavily covered around the time, and later on boxes were recalled and re-released with stickers over the website, and then the website was removed from later releases. Reused accessory molds. In order to cut costs, Mattel reuses a lot of accessory molds for their dolls. I see a lot of this happening between My Scene and Monster High. A lot of people don't know that Frankie's handbag in Monster High is a reused sculpt of a My Scene handbag, and so is Claudine's core doll purse. It's a scaled down version of a My Scene purse. I will try and show examples on screen, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find these easily. Just know that this is all true and I'm correct. Creatable World. So, Creatable World were a series of kind of gender fluid dolls where they came with a very androgynous base doll and either a long wig or short wig, and either feminine clothing or masculine clothing. And you could kind of dress it up however you wanted to make it either a boy or a girl or whatever else you wanted. I heard about them when they came out, and I was super excited to find out that they were like non-binary Barbies, but whenever I went into the store to find them, whenever I went to Target or Kmart, I couldn't. So that really bummed me out as a kid that I couldn't get my like gender diverse dolls, because I was a really woke kid, apparently. These did win a couple of awards for being really groundbreaking toys, but also didn't last very long, which is unfortunate. I would like to see this concept revisited, but I'm also not sure how that would fare in the current climate of things. Barbie and Ken break up. In 2004, there was a publicity stunt in which Barbie and Ken broke up, and Barbie got with another guy. Barbie's new boyfriend was named Blaine. He was Australian and he was a surfer, and he was also just kind of like a bit better to look at than Ken. Sorry dude, you know I love you. Barbie and Ken got back together in 2011, and a 2-pack of dolls was created to celebrate, and it was like this massive public thing where people cared about a doll's relationship status. It really was a publicity stunt because obviously this was 2004 and Barbie was being slaughtered in the sales, so they had to do something. They were just doing anything at this point. Okay, level 3, Barbie controversies. I've kind of condensed every Barbie controversy into one entry, because if you've read one article on Barbie, you've probably heard at least 10 of these. So I didn't want to spend too much time on them and have them kind of like clogging up the list. So here we go, dot points, lightning round. Most of these controversies are really fucking dumb, by the way. Okay, first of all, Barbie babysitter doll. This doll came with a scale that permanently said that Barbie was, I think, 100 pounds or 110 pounds, and also came with a book titled How to Lose Weight that said, "Don't eat" on the back. At best, I think this was a joke in really poor taste, and at worst, I think this was a product of its time, considering this doll came out in the 1960s. Happy Families Midge! Midge was pregnant. Parents thought this would encourage teen pregnancy. Midge was very clearly not a teenager at the time. Fun fact, my mum also collects dolls and she owns this one. I think that's cool. Oreo Barbie. Oreo can sometimes be used as a derogatory term for black people who act white on the inside, and when the Oreo Fun Barbie came with a black counterpart, people drew unfortunate comparisons. Teen Talk Barbie. These Barbies had voice lines. One of them was, "Math class is tough," which was critiqued as being sexist, despite Barbie never specifying that she couldn't do math because she was a girl. She just said it was hard. Boys struggle with math too, you know? Also, there was a comically small amount of Teen Talk Barbie dolls that actually said, "Math class is tough." Barbie and Tanner. Barbie came with a dog that pooped and ate. The poop had little magnets in it, and they were choking hazards. This was pretty justified, to be fair. You might remember Tanner as being Butch in Lucky Penny Shop videos, which I watched obsessively as a child. Black Canary Barbie. This Barbie was obviously based on the comic character of Black Canary, and Black Canary has a pretty leather and fishnets heavy outfit, which parents were outraged at on a doll that was aimed at adults. Can these parents get a life? Ironically enough, when I was a kid reading like controversial Barbie articles, I saw this Barbie, absolutely fell in love with her and became obsessed with her. So maybe you shouldn't have been worried about the Barbie that was turning your kids into strippers, and you should have been worried about the Barbie that was turning your kids gay. Growing Up Skipper. This was a Skipper doll that started as having childlike proportions, until you twisted her arm and she grew boobs and grew taller. Similarly to the growing up glam dolls that I mentioned earlier, I think this was a well-meaning toy designed to educate about puberty that just didn't execute its concept very well. Video Girl Barbie. This Barbie had a camera in her chest and a TV in her back so that kids could make fun, silly videos and upload them to their computers or whatever. And there were concerns that this doll could be used in the creation of child sexual abuse material. I do think this was a slight overreaction, but I also don't doubt that there's probably someone sick enough out there to do that. And that's all the ones that I wanted to talk about. These dolls have already all been talked to death in several list videos, articles, deep dives, whatever. So I didn't want to give them too much of my time and attention. If you want to know more, just Google controversial Barbie. You'll get 10,000 articles from fucking shitty websites that have 10 billion ads in them. Flavors! These dolls were released in 2003, similarly to my scene to compete with Bratz. These were extremely poorly received and discontinued very quickly after, quote, disastrous sales. I own one. I thrifted her and I have not cleaned her up yet, but she's cute. I like her a lot. I will be doing that soon. Beauty Cuties! These were a line of dolls released in 2007. They had big heads, itty bitty shrimpy little bodies, and eyes that changed colours with a click of a button. I think it was on their heads. It was very similar to a Blythe doll in concept, where you can switch out the colour and position of their eyes, and also the proportions were kind of similar to Blythe, but that's where the comparisons really end, because this is a Playline doll from the 2000s and Blythe is kind of more of a collector's deal at the moment. Only one line of these were ever released, with one line of fashion packs to coincide. Listed on Delect, there is a line of prototypes that don't have the changing eye gimmick, which I find very interesting. I'm really sad that these didn't get more releases, because I think they're, and I quote from my notes, cunt as fuck. Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story. I'd like to put a massive trigger warning for eating disorders on this entry, because obviously Karen Carpenter was a person who struggled with an eating disorder for most of her life. This is a movie that very heavily features that. This is not necessarily a Mattel property, but it does involve Barbie dolls, which is cool. It was an indie film released in 1987, only 4 years after Karen Carpenter's death due to complications of her anorexia nervosa. Rather than live-action actors playing the roles, Barbie dolls were instead puppeteered around miniature sets. This film is oddly very tactful and sympathetic towards Karen Carpenter and her struggles with an eating disorder, despite Todd Haynes, the director, never reaching out to the Carpenter family to talk about either making the film or using the Carpenter's music. So the Carpenter's music is used illegally in this movie, as well as music from other artists such as Elton John. To portray Karen's struggles with anorexia, the doll playing her had its face and arms carved away with a knife, which gives this film a really unsettling angle. You can see her wasting away as you watch it, and after a while you kind of don't even notice that these are dolls playing the characters. You get really immersed into this movie. It's brilliant. I love it. The film was pulled from circulation after Karen Carpenter's family, notably her parents and brother, took offense to the movie, mostly because, one, the music of the Carpenters was used without any permission or rights or payment, and two, Karen's family were portrayed very unsympathetically as being, at best, controlling and uncaring of Karen, and at worst, indirectly responsible for her eating disorder. I highly recommend this film if you don't know much about Karen Carpenter, or even if you do and you love her, or even if you don't love her, or if you have no idea who that is. I love this movie so much. It's available to watch for free online if you're okay with watching it in absolute piss poor quality and crusty audio, because obviously this film was pulled from circulation and the only way to see it afterwards was bootlegs of bootlegs of bootlegs, tape rips off tape rips off tape rips. And so the only surviving copies to this day are not very high quality. Teen trends! I added this to the list solely because I love these dolls and I wanted to talk about them. Released in 2005, these are 17-inch tall dolls, not quite as big as an American Girl, but not nearly as small as a Barbie. They have ball joints at the knees and elbows, and only lasted a couple of years, which breaks my heart. They only got 2 releases, a core line and then a core refresh line of sorts, and a handful of fashion packs, which were all gorgeous. A prototype of a 5th character named Raina was made. She was meant to be a J-fashion inspired character who I would have loved, but she was sadly never released, and now I'm going to show you my Teen Trends collection. This is my Courtney doll. She is in her box. Her box is in great shape, which I'm very proud of. And she's also got no clothes. She's got basically all of her accessories. Her box is in great shape. She herself is in great shape, but no clothes. The person selling this to me bought these dolls just for their clothes so that she can put them on her BJDs, but then just like sold me the base dolls for cheap. I got this one for $5, and I got Gabby, whose box is currently holding up the camera, for $10. Okay, and this is my Gabby doll. The seller had Gabby, Kiana, and Courtney available, and I'm just not fussed about Kiana, which is really strange because I obviously love alternative fashion, I love punk and goth styles, so a doll that is more of like a punk girl, you'd think would really appeal to me, but she doesn't interest me. Deandra, on the other hand her over, I need her. I've had this doll for like over a year, and I still haven't been able to find clothes for her. These dolls smell really funny, by the way, because their plastic is degrading and melting and going sticky. But you can see she has her curling iron, her hair clips, her little magazine she comes with, her stand. She's in great shape other than not having clothes. I love and cherish these dolls so much, but I just haven't been able to put them on display because they're naked. So if you know anywhere I can get Teen Trends clothes, please tell me, or if you have them and you'd like to sell them to me, shoot me a DM literally anywhere. I will answer. I am so desperate to have these dolls on display and clean them up because I love them so much, but I just can't do that if they're not wearing clothes. So yeah, this entry has been kind of like a glorified plug to tell you to send me in your Teen Trends clothes. Takara Barbie. So from the 60s to the 80s, Mattel attempted multiple times to introduce Barbie to the Japanese market. They thought this would be kind of easy because Barbie was manufactured in Japan. But at the time, Barbie just wasn't suited very well to Japanese tastes. I mean, they just weren't used to seeing blue hair, and pronouns? They just weren't used to seeing blue eyes, blonde hair. It just wasn't their standard of beauty. And also, the doll market was already dominated by Lika-chan, who has been Japan's best-selling doll since the day she debuted. She is their Barbie. She is their reigning champion. Let me go get my Lika-chan dolls actually, and I can show you. This is my Sumiko Gurashi Lika-chan doll that I bought off AliExpress. She is an actual Lika-chan doll. She's not a bootleg or anything. I just bought her off a seller on AliExpress, and that's why she has the wrong shoes and no headband, but I treasure her so much. And then this, my absolute pride and joy, is a doll, a Lika-chan doll that my brother bought for me from Japan when he went on holiday there. I think, yeah, last year. It meant so much to me that he did this. He said that it was the first thing he bought in Japan, and she traveled with them the entire time they were there. So I cried. I cried when I got given this. I cried when my brother texted me telling me that she had been with them the whole time they were in Japan and that she was the first thing they bought. I love my brother. He's the nicest guy ever. I hope he's watching. Hi, Brayden! This is like a tie-in with a brand of candy. So you can see their mascots are on the front and back. And the dress she's wearing underneath the coat has little candies on it. I think that's just so cute. So, so precious. And then she also comes with this tiny working umbrella. Oh, it's raining out? Good thing Lika-chan brought her umbrella. I'm just absolutely stunned at this doll. But yeah, that's who was beating Barbie out back then. And currently to this day, actually. I got really sidetracked there. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to give an example of who Lika-chan is, what their dolls look like, and also kind of brag a little bit. So anyway, rather than trying to compete with Takara, which was the company that created Lika-chan, Mattel instead decided to join up with them, to partner with them, to create a doll that would appeal more to Japanese children. This doll became Takara Barbie. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous doll. The doll was a moderate success, but after a while Mattel decided not to continue their contract with Takara, so they rebranded Barbie to Jenny and continued to sell her, and she is still being sold to some capacity to this day. Bild Lilly. Lilly was a comic strip character in the German magazine Bild. Lilly was characterized as being a witty and independent young woman, you know, very flirtatious, very comfortable within her sexuality, being very self-aware. The comic was not necessarily for adults, but was very risque for the time. Think of how, like, The Simpsons isn't really strictly for adults, but has more of that mature content that you will get more if you're an adult. Lilly was not a call girl. She was not a call girl. Many articles characterize her as being, you know, a prostitute, a call girl, a stripper, whatever, drum up controversy around her, when in actuality she was just a secretary, and not even like a freaky secretary, just a secretary. In 1955, a doll of Lilly was created. This was aimed at men to keep around as like a 3D pinup model, but after a while she became popular with kids, and then third-party companies began to produce houses and clothes for her. Lilly spawned many emulators and knockoffs, one of which was this little American doll named Barbie. That's right! Obviously, Barbie became more successful than Lilly, which is unfortunate because, you know, it really was a case of Mattel knocking off Lilly rather than taking inspiration or paying tribute. Eventually, Lilly was bought out by Mattel and dolls ceased production, which, bummer. And fun fact, a Lilly movie was made in the 1950s and was lost media until last year. You can watch it now, it's on Internet Archive, I think, or YouTube. One of those things. Final level, level 4, let's do this. Okay, the Monkeys doll. This was a very entirely self-indulgent thing that I included because if you don't know, the Monkeys are my favorite band ever. Cue photo of my Monkeys collection. This doll was released in 1966 and is based on the television show / real-life band The Monkees. This doll is really unique in that instead of making 4 separate dolls of each member, they made a weird plush sack thing with all 4 heads of each member sticking out of it. And also it talks when you pull a string. I don't think this thing sold very well because after its release, Mattel never made a single piece of Monkeys merch again. And Monkeys merch was a big seller back in the 1960s, so it must have done pretty outstandingly poorly. Mattel Bratz. Once Bratz hit the markets in 2001, Mattel obviously panicked because they were being absolutely killed in the sales. The creator of Bratz, Carter Bright, was actually working at Mattel at the time and had signed an agreement saying that anything he came up with while working there belonged to Mattel. So because he came up with the idea for Bratz while working at Mattel, used Mattel parts to create the first Bratz prototypes, and then went ahead and pitched the idea to MGA. Mattel were pissed! The courts initially ruled in favor of Mattel, giving them the rights to create Bratz dolls, and create Bratz dolls they did. Mattel created prototypes of what their version of Bratz would look like. These prototypes are somewhat of a massively rare collector's item now, and people have been buying up the old prototypes, making recasts of them. I mean, I think Mattel Bratz are really cool. I would not have wanted them to go to market because they are not nearly as Bratz-like as actual Bratz. They are very much Mattel's more kiddie version of it, for lack of a better term. But the reason these prototypes never made it to market is because MGA called for a retrial, and the judge that was assigned to this retrial had actually a weirdly massive bone to pick with Mattel. They had ruled against Mattel in the Aqua case where they sued Aqua for their satirical song Barbie Girl. Because of this, the rights to Bratz were awarded back to MGA, and they continued making them, as they do to this day. Mattel stalked Isaac Larian. I want to start this by acknowledging that Isaac Larian is not a super great person, and also not always a reliable narrator. He is a mega Zionist, and if you look on his LinkedIn, it's very much nonsensical rants that confuse and concern me, really. But saying this, no one deserves to be stalked, no one deserves to be, you know, harassed, spied on, no matter who they are or what they do. During the second MGA versus Mattel trial, MGA revealed that Mattel had been sending in employees to MGA's private product showcases so that they could find out, you know, upcoming products, the release dates, the advertisements, and the price point, so that Mattel could make dolls that better competed with MGA. These employees would pose as owners of toy stores and pretend that they were genuinely interested in buying Bratz dolls to sell, when instead they were just collecting information. Mattel also intimidated certain stores into not stocking Bratz dolls. Something I've heard thrown a lot around in the doll community is the claim that Mattel employed people to stalk Isaac Larian and his family in order to uncover trade secrets. And not to say that this didn't happen, but when I tried to research it, the only source I could find was a Reddit comment. And this is not me definitively saying that it did or didn't happen. I am more than willing to believe that this happened. It's just that I would really like to see a source, please. And obviously if this did happen, I feel really, really incredibly bad for Isaac Larian and his family or anyone else who was affected. But yeah, if you know of a source, comment that. And I'll pin it and we'll be good. So yeah, that's it for my Mattel Dolls Iceberg video. If there's anything you feel like I left out, please let me know. If you'd really like to see the MGA Dolls video, please let me know. I'm really happy to be making this. I'm having a lot of fun making this and just like talking about things I like. And yeah, you can follow my Instagram, my Twitter, you can subscribe. Please subscribe, like the video, whatever hype is, do that. And yeah, sparkle on guys, have a great day. If you feel like watching one of my other videos, please do, but you don't have to. Bye! Mwah. Oh my god, I need to stretch my legs so fucking bad. That's the end of level 1. Oh my Jesus. My mum was like wearing these jeans in the 80s. I don't know how she did it. Okay. Ah! Ah!